Hi Bobcats, this is Miss Lee, and today's video lesson is on fractions or decimals. Make sure that you have your notes and you're filling out your notes and working your examples along with the video. Alright, let's just get right into it. Each part of a multi-part question on a social studies test is worth the same number of points. The whole question is worth 37 5/10 points. Roz got half of the parts of the question correct. How many points did Roz receive? Okay, the first thing you always want to do with these word problems is write your expression. You need to be able to see what numbers you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing together are. So we know she got half of the parts correct. So how many points is that question worth? Well, the question's worth 37.5 points. It's just she got half of the 37.5 points. So our expression would be half of, and we've learned that of means to multiply, 37 5/10. Now, if you'll notice, this problem is a little bit different than what we're used to. We're used to either being all fractions or all decimals. In this case, we have a fraction and a decimal. So there are two different ways we can solve this problem. The first way is to change all the numbers to decimals. Okay, when you are working with rational numbers, the rational numbers, in order to add, subtract, or multiply or divide, they all need to be in the same form. So we can change them all to decimals, which a lot of you will probably like. 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. So we have 5/10 times 37 5/10. And we know how to multiply with decimals. We take away the decimal points. This becomes 5, this becomes 375, and we multiply as if they were whole numbers. We put the longer number, the one with more digits on top, 375 times 5, and we do the math. 25, carry the 2, 35 plus 2 is 37, carry a 3, 15 plus 3 is 18. So we have 1,875. Then we just go back and we put in the decimal point. So we know we need one decimal place for the first factor, one decimal place in the second factor. That's a total of 2. Start at the right. There's one decimal place, two decimal place, insert your decimal point. So how many points did she receive? She received 18 75/100 points. Now, what if this were a multiple choice question and your answer choices were all in fraction form? Well, this is easy. This is 18 whole, and this is 75/100, which we know simplifies to 3/4. So it would be 18 3/4 points. This is where those conversions of fractions and decimals really come into play. You really have to know how to do your conversions. All right, so the first way was where we changed all of the rational numbers to decimals. The second way is you could change them all to what? All to fractions. So 1/2 times, and this again is that mixed number 37 5/10, which that 5/10 simplifies to 1/2. Now you know how to multiply with fractions. Everything has to be in fraction form, so we have to do our Texas backwards. And it's going to be 1/2 times, and this is going to be 37 times 2, which is what? 74 plus 1, 75 halves. Cannot simplify before we multiply, so let's just multiply. 1 times 75 is 75. Multiply your denominators, you get 4. Then we can do our Tybo, top in, bottom out, to change it back to a mixed number. So 4 goes into 7 once, 3 remainder, bring down the 5. 4 goes into 35 8 times, which is 32, with a remainder of 3. So our answer is going to be 18 wholes and 3 left over out of 4, 18 3/4. Now, again, what if this was multiple choice and all of your answer choices were decimals? Well, you have to be able to convert this mixed number into decimal form. Well, we know that 18 is going to stay 18 wholes. The 3/4 simplified or changed to a decimal is 75 cents, right? So 18 75/100. Same answer. Now, I do want to say that not all the time can you change them all to decimals, because I know a lot of you are probably saying, yes, decimals. I don't like fractions. I'm scared of fractions, but I can change everything to the decimal. That is not always true. What if instead of 1/2, what if it was 1/3? Well, what is 1/3 as a decimal? It's the repeating threes, right? 0.333333333, the threes repeat. In this case, you can't change this to a decimal because you wouldn't get the correct answer. I mean, you'd be close to it. You could guesstimate, like if you had multiple choice answers, you could guesstimate. But in this case, you would want to leave the 1/3 as a fraction and change the 37 5/10 to fraction form. Sometimes you're going to have, so in order to change a fraction to a decimal, that fraction has to be able to change into decimal format with no repeating factors. It cannot be what we call irrational, where it keeps going, the numbers just keep going on and on and on and on and on. They don't repeat and it never terminates. It has to be a terminating decimal. So be careful, like for example, 1/7, 2/9, even 12 as your denominator, unless it simplifies like to 3/4 or something. Like if I do 5/12, that doesn't simplify. Okay, those are not fractions that you would want to change into a decimal. You would need to leave it in fraction form. So let's try another one. Some friends went out to dinner. The bill was $14.50. Charles paid for 3/5 of the entire bill. How much did Charles how much did Charles pay? We're going to solve this problem two different ways. Okay? So first, what is your expression? What do you know? We know that he pays for 3/5 of the bill. Well, how much was the bill? The bill was $14.50. So he paid for 3/5 of means to multiply 14 5/10 or 14 50/100, however you decide to write that. Okay, so the first way number one is going to be all decimals. 3/5. Everybody should know what 3/5 is as a decimal. If not, do your work over here. Change it. 5 is not a decimal place value, but tenths is. So we could change the 5 into a tenth by using a scale factor of ×2. Do the same thing to the 3, and we get 6/10. So this is going to become 6/10 times 14 50/100. Now, just take out your decimal points. We have 1450 times 6, 0, 30, carry a 3, 24 plus 3 is 27, and we have 8. Go back and count your decimal places in your factors. There's 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, sorry, the 3 is under the 7. So he paid $8.70. Pretty easy. Now I want to say something. Some of you are going to want to drop this 0 right here. You're going to want to drop that 0 when you're multiplying, and that's fine, but if you drop that 0, you cannot count it as a decimal place value. Okay? Alright, the next one. Since we did the first way with decimals, we're going to do the second way with fractions. So it's going to be 3/5 times, we know it's going to be mixed number because 14 is a whole number, and 50 cents or 50/100, that simplifies to what? 1/2. So we're going to have to do our Texas backwards, and we're going to get 3/5 times 29/2. Unfortunately, we cannot simplify before we multiply, so we'll do the math. 3 times 29, I believe is 87. Check my math on that. Over 5 times 2 is 10. This one, Tybo's pretty easy. We can do it mentally to change it back to a mixed number. How many times does 10 go into 87? It goes in 8 whole times with 7 left over out of 10. 8 7/10. So he paid 8 7/10. $8.07. Your answer choices are probably going to be in decimal form, right? Well, that's going to be easy to do. 8 7/10. To write it in money form, just add that 0. $8.70. You get the same answer either way you go. And that's all there is to it.